I discovered my girlfriend and my best friend together in our bed when I returned home earlier than usual from the office. The moment I stepped inside, she gave me this smug little smile. "Right on schedule," she said. "We were literally just discussing how terrible you are in the bedroom." I stayed completely silent. I simply pulled out my phone, captured one clear picture, and walked straight out. 2 days afterward, both of them started flooding my phone with messages and calls. This came right after I forwarded that photo to Ryan's wife and to Melissa's parents. I'm not someone who hunts for drama or conflict. I never have been. My father spent 3 decades as a police officer, and one lesson he drilled into me was to choose your fights carefully. He used to say there's a big difference between being passive and being smart about your moves. That advice stuck with me deeply. I'm 32 years old and I work in the field of cybersecurity. Up until very recently, I genuinely believed I had a solid, comfortable life. Melissa and I had been together for 3 full years. We first crossed paths at a close friend's wedding. She was standing with the bridal party. I was on the groom's side, a textbook setup. She's stunning, full of energy, the kind of person who lights up any room she enters. I tend to be quieter, more logical, always observing and thinking things through. I believed we complemented each other perfectly, or at least that's what I told myself. Last year we decided to move in together and split the rent on a nice 2-bedroom place in the city center. On the outside, everything appeared smooth. We had our comfortable patterns. I kept my steady 9-to-5 schedule while she had a flexible marketing job that let her work from home frequently. Weekends usually meant hiking trails, catching new films, or spending time with our circle of friends. Ryan, my closest friend since university, and his wife Jen were practically fixtures at our Saturday dinners. Then came last Tuesday. I managed to wrap up a major security project much sooner than expected. My supervisor was pleased and encouraged me to head out for the rest of the afternoon. It was barely past 2 p.m., so I figured I'd surprise Melissa by showing up early and whisking her away for a relaxed late lunch. Normally, I always send a quick heads-up text if my plans change and I'm coming home at an odd hour. It's a simple respect thing we both practiced. But that day I decided to keep it a secret. A pleasant one, or so I thought. That choice turned out to be a serious error. I let myself into the apartment as silently as I could, hoping maybe I'd catch her lounging and watching one of those reality programs she claims to dislike but watches anyway. The living area was deserted, yet I could hear muffled talking coming from the bedroom. My first guess was that she was on a professional call. She frequently handles work calls while lying in bed on remote days. As I drew nearer, though, I instantly recognized the other voice. It belonged to Ryan. My friend of more than a decade. I'm not naive. The moment I heard him, I understood exactly what was going on. Yet some instinct inside me demanded visual proof. A raw, instinctive part of me needed to witness it with my own eyes. I slowly pushed the bedroom door open. There they were, wrapped up in our bedding. Those were the very sheets I'd purchased just last month as a little gift after she'd pointed them out in a catalog. Ryan bolted upright as if electrified, scrambling to cover himself. Melissa, however, she stayed right where she was, staring straight at me with an expression I had never seen on her face before. It was as though her usual mask had finally dropped away. "Perfect timing," she remarked, wearing that same cold smirk that twisted my insides. "We were just chatting about how awful you are in bed." At least Ryan had the grace to appear genuinely horrified. "Matt, dude, I'm really sorry," he stammered. Melissa immediately shut him down. "Don't bother apologizing to him. Honestly, he ought to be thanking us for keeping our opinions to ourselves until now." And then she actually laughed. Honestly, what a relief to finally stop pretending. Right then, I saw a completely different person. Not the woman I had loved and built a life with for 3 years, but someone detached, almost vicious, who might have been hiding beneath the surface the entire time. I didn't utter a single word. I just raised my phone, took one sharp, unmistakable photo of the scene, and left the room. While shutting the door behind me, I heard her shout after me, "What? That's all? No yelling? No big dramatic scene? Typical. No fire in you at all, as usual." I got in my car and drove directly to a nearby hotel, where I checked in for the night. Sitting alone on that stiff hotel bed, I felt nothing at all. No flood of tears. No burning anger. Only an icy, razor-sharp clarity. the same mental state I used to enter during my college days when I competed in precision shooting. I had switched into full strategic mode. That entire first night, I ignored every incoming text and phone call. There were dozens. Mostly desperate apologies from Ryan, mixed with a handful from Melissa. His messages were panicked and remorseful. Hers began defensive, quickly turned hostile, and eventually became outright taunting. Nice job running away from another confrontation. Ryan feels awful, but I reminded him he owes you 0 apologies. Your belongings will be sitting in the hallway whenever you decide to man up and collect them. I refused to reply. Instead, I began putting together a careful plan. I phoned my cousin Greg, who kindly offered his spare bedroom, and arranged to stay there once the hotel stay ended, until I secured a new place of my own. Next, I reached out to a friend who practices law for guidance on handling everything properly and legally. Step 1. I contacted the landlord of our building. Luckily, both names appeared on the lease agreement. I explained the extremely personal nature of the situation and my need to exit the lease ahead of schedule. Although normal policy demanded 60 days notice, after I described what happened and showed the photo, with sensitive areas carefully obscured, the landlord agreed to fast-track the process. I paid the full early termination fee out of my personal savings and completed all the required documents to officially remove myself from the lease. He recognized the seriousness of the domestic issue and arranged for the locks to be changed right away. He did note, however, that Melissa would legally have 30 days to either prove she could afford the apartment independently or move out. Step 2. I withdrew exactly half of the money from our shared savings account. Not a penny more, not a penny less. I documented the transaction thoroughly and retained clear records showing that we had contributed equally over time. Thankfully, we had never merged our primary checking accounts. That I also went through and canceled every joint subscription service and quietly removed her name as an authorized user on my credit card, timing it carefully to avoid any pending charges that could complicate matters. Step 3. The following morning, I arrived at my workplace early and, using their secure network, drafted a very straightforward, emotion-free email. Before hitting send, I double-checked with my lawyer friend about the legality of distributing the photo. He assured me that because the image contained no explicit nudity, and because I had taken it inside my own home where I had every legal right to be, sharing it privately with directly affected individuals would not break any laws in our jurisdiction. Even so, I worded everything with extreme caution. I attached the photo and wrote to Jen, "I'm truly sorry to have to send you this, but yesterday I discovered Ryan and Melissa together. You have every right to know what's really happening. I'm here if you ever want to talk." I sent a similarly calm, respectful message to Melissa's parents, people I had always gotten along with very well. "I've always held both of you in high regard, and I wanted you to understand why I won't be joining Sunday dinners anymore. Yesterday I found Melissa with my friend Ryan. I'm leaving the apartment and moving forward with my life." After that, I scheduled a professional moving company to come the very next day, a time I knew Melissa would be at her office. They packed up only the items that were indisputably mine, furniture and belongings I had purchased receipts for, or items given specifically to me as gifts. Anything jointly purchased or of unclear ownership remained behind. I deliberately left behind the television I had originally bought, even though we had always treated it as shared. I had zero interest in starting fights over material things. The aftermath was explosive, but I observed it all safely from afar, settled temporarily in Greg's spare room. Jen reached out to me almost immediately after receiving the email. She was heartbroken, yet deeply thankful I had told her the truth. She confessed she'd had suspicions about Ryan's behavior for quite a while. Melissa's parents contacted me shortly afterward. Her dad in particular was devastated. He'd always welcomed me like family, even taking me out on his boat to fish while Melissa stayed home, insisting she got seasick. They apologized repeatedly, even though none of it was their fault. That IT took almost 2 full days, roughly 48 hours after the discovery, before my phone began blowing up nonstop. "Ryan, Matt, please pick up." Jen kicked me out. "I need to explain." "Melissa, you had absolutely no right to drag my parents into this. They're threatening to cut me off financially. You spiteful jerk." "Melissa again. Answer your damn phone. You're destroying my entire life over one stupid thing." Ryan again. "The kids are crying constantly. Jen refuses to let me near them. Please tell her this was just a one-time mistake." The messages kept coming, growing more frantic with each passing hour. Apparently Jen had forwarded the photo to their entire extended social circle. Ryan's own parents, who had treated Jen almost like their own daughter for years, stopped speaking to him entirely. His supervisor, who happened to be close friends with Jen's father, suddenly began scrutinizing Ryan's recent job performance closely. Meanwhile, Melissa's parents really did stop providing financial help. I had quietly suspected for months that they were covering a large portion of her rent despite her supposedly good salary and flashy lifestyle. She frequently dropped hints about family assistance, and I'd noticed regular transfers from them around the beginning of each month. Her own paycheck seemed to disappear into luxury clothing and weekend getaways with her girlfriends. Getaways I now realized likely included Ryan far more often than I knew. Let me be very clear about one thing. I did not send those emails seeking revenge. I sent them because Jen deserved to know the facts. And so did Melissa's parents. The information was delivered plainly, without exaggeration or bitterness. My goal was never to ruin anyone's life. I simply refused to shield two people who had deliberately hurt me from the natural consequences of their choices. 3 days after everything happened, an unfamiliar number called me. It was Melissa, using a friend's phone. "You've completely wrecked everything for me," she hissed. "The landlord says I either qualify for this place on my own income or I'm out. You know perfectly well I can't swing this rent alone." "That sounds like an issue of your own making," I answered evenly. "My parents won't even talk to me anymore. They've cut off my credit card. Those are the results of your decisions, not mine. You planned every bit of this," she accused. "You acted like this calm, easygoing guy the whole time, but underneath you're cold and scheming." "I'm exactly who I've always been," I replied. "I simply reserve my kindness for people who actually earn it." She paused for a long moment. "Ryan's entire world is collapsing. Jen is already starting divorce proceedings and wants full custody. Ryan destroyed his own world the moment he chose to sleep with my girlfriend. If you're calling hoping I'll feel sorry for you, don't waste your breath. I honestly didn't think you were capable of this," she said, her tone noticeably softer. "That was your miscalculation." I ended the call and immediately blocked the number. A full week went by after that conversation. I've since signed a lease on a smaller but better located apartment on the other side of the city. I've been dividing my days between work, regular gym sessions, and occasionally watching Jen's children when she needs a short break. She and I have unexpectedly built a real friendship, connected through the shared pain of betrayal. According to people we both know, Ryan is currently crashing at a relative's place and drinking far too much. He's already been placed on formal probation at his job. He continues attempting to reach me through new numbers and various social media profiles. Every single one gets blocked without me reading the content. Melissa received official notice to leave the old apartment since she couldn't meet the income threshold on her salary alone. Without her parents' ongoing support, she simply didn't qualify. Her sister got in touch to express regret over how Melissa had acted and told me Melissa is relocating back to their hometown. Her marketing career here in the city has taken a serious hit. Not destroyed forever, as some people exaggerated, but she'll now need to rebuild her contacts and reputation in a much smaller professional environment with limited options. The biggest surprise came from our shared friend group. I had braced myself to lose half my friends in the inevitable divide. That's usually how these situations play out. Instead, I've been genuinely touched by how many people have reached out with support. Although not everyone, of course. It turns out quite a few of my friends had never particularly warmed to Melissa. They'd simply put up with her because of me. And apparently Ryan had made unwanted advances towards several women in our circle over the years. But they kept quiet to avoid stirring up trouble. A handful of people have chosen to stay completely neutral. Mostly Ryan's extended family members and a couple of Melissa's work colleagues who are part of our wider group. They've stepped back from everyone involved, and I fully respect that decision. I'd much rather maintain a smaller group of truly loyal people than keep those who only stay out of obligation. For how I'm doing personally. Honestly, better than I anticipated. I don't miss Melissa, the person I thought I knew never truly existed. I miss the illusion of who I believed she was. I miss the brotherhood I thought Ryan and I shared. But I don't miss the lies. Yesterday my father called after my mom filled him in on everything. He didn't give me empty comfort or promise I'd meet someone better someday. He simply said, "You dealt with it the way a real man handles things. Calm, deliberate, and strategic, never weak." For anyone concerned about whether my actions were legally sound, I spoke with a lawyer friend before doing anything. The photograph was taken inside my own residence, where privacy expectations are minimal. I never posted it publicly or shared it widely online. I sent it only to the people directly impacted. I removed nothing that wasn't clearly mine, damaged no property, and made no threats whatsoever. I simply told the truth and quietly stepped away from a toxic situation. Some might describe my response as detached or even ruthless. Perhaps it was. But the instant Melissa looked up at me from our bed, smirking while lying beside my best friend and mocking my most personal insecurities, something fundamental shifted inside me. I understood then that the strongest possible reaction isn't always shouting, crying, or physical confrontation. Sometimes the most devastating thing you can do is calmly deliver the unfiltered truth. They both severely underestimated me because I tend to stay quiet, not out of fear, but because I value peace over pointless arguments. They confused genuine kindness with weakness. That turned out to be their greatest mistake. As my dad likes to put it. Never assume a sword is harmless just because it's still in its scabbard. I'm looking ahead now. A complete, clean separation. A brand new beginning. And a hard-earned lesson about the huge difference between the version of people we see every day and who they become when they believe nobody important is watching. Update: 2 months later. It's now been a little over 2 months since the whole thing exploded, and since quite a few people have asked for news, here's the latest. First, I'm genuinely doing okay. My new apartment is more compact, but the neighborhood is nicer and more convenient. I've started kickboxing classes 3 evenings a week, both for the physical benefits and as a healthy way to release the occasional flare-ups of anger that still come up. Last month, my company offered me a promotion. Apparently, the clarity, focus, and productivity I've brought to work since the breakup caught the attention of upper management. Now, regarding the others, Ryan's divorce moved forward at a surprisingly fast pace. Jen was lucky enough to have a close family friend who specializes in family law and managed to push the early paperwork through quickly. They've already negotiated a preliminary settlement on most major issues, although the court still has to give final approval on asset division and custody arrangements. For the time being, he's making temporary support payments and has only limited, supervised contact with the children due to documented concerns about his alcohol use. He was officially terminated from his job last month after his performance dropped off sharply. He still tries reaching out every now and then, but the tone of his messages has shifted from pleading to bitter, accusing me of overreacting and single-handedly ruining his entire future over one slip-up. I continue to ignore every attempt. Melissa did move back to her hometown, just as expected. Her sister has stayed in occasional contact and shared that their parents did eventually resume limited communication with her, but the financial support remains completely cut off. She's currently employed at her cousin's hair salon and renting a modest apartment that her parents own, though they now require her to pay full rent. From what I hear, she's telling everyone who will listen that I'm unstable, controlling, and emotionally manipulative, insisting I orchestrated the whole fallout against her. Nobody who knows me well takes those claims seriously at all. The biggest surprise continues to be Jen. Our friendship has only deepened over the past weeks as we've supported one another through the pain. About a month ago, she asked whether, after we've both had sufficient time to recover, I might be interested in exploring something more than friendship. I was honestly caught off guard. I've always thought she was beautiful and respected her incredible resilience, but out of loyalty to her marriage, I had never allowed myself to view her romantically. I told her I was open to the idea in principle, but emphasized that we should move extremely slowly and carefully. So far, we've had 2 private dinners together. Just good conversation, laughter, and zero pressure. We're both committed to being 100% transparent about our emotions and boundaries, and we've promised each other we'll immediately pull back if anything starts feeling unhealthy or forced. A few people have raised eyebrows about the timing and whether it's wise or appropriate. I completely understand the concern, but we're both consenting adults who have bonded through an extremely painful shared experience. Life has a strange way of surprising you, sometimes by revealing how fast the people you trusted most can turn against you, and other times by showing just how strong you can become when everything falls apart. I'll never claim I'm thankful this betrayal happened, but I will say that surviving it has made me noticeably tougher, wiser, and much more selective about who earns a place in my inner circle. The most painful lessons are often the ones that teach us the most.